Welcome back to the Sleepy Explorer. I'm so glad you pressed play tonight. This little corner of the universe is here to keep you company as you wind down, whether you're tucked under heavy blankets or just letting the day ebb away while your mind drifts gently elsewhere. Before we set off together, I'd love to know where are you listening from, and what time is it right now? Are you stretched out in a quiet room in the middle of the night, or perhaps lying awake past midnight with only the soft glow of your phone lighting the dark? It's always a joy to see how far this sleepy community reaches, from bedside lamps glowing faintly to city windows overlooking the quiet hours, all linked by curiosity and a shared sky. If you feel like sharing, leave a note in the comments. I always love reading them. And if you enjoy these gentle journeys, consider tapping the like button or subscribing. It helps this dreamy little channel float a little further and lets others find their way here too. Now, tonight's question is one that seems almost too simple, like something a curious child might whisper while staring up at the stars. Does space ever end? Does it have walls? A last page? A giant "you've reached the edge" sign floating in the dark? Or does it keep stretching forever, without limits, without boundaries, without a final stop? It sounds playful, maybe even silly at first, but the deeper you fall into it, the more it pulls at your imagination. A question like this stretches your thoughts the way the universe itself stretches galaxies apart. It asks you to picture distances you cannot cross, horizons you cannot pass, and mysteries you cannot pin down. You don't need to remember every detail, of course. This isn't a quiz, and you don't have to keep your eyes open if sleep comes sooner than expected. If anything, the science of the endless can be a lullaby in itself. And if you do stay awake, well, at least you'll walk away with a fresh appreciation for just how strange the cosmos really is. Take a deep breath now. Let your shoulders loosen. Imagine your thoughts rising slowly, like balloons into the night sky, higher and higher, until they brush against the stars. That's where we'll begin on the edge of a question that refuses to end. Think back for a moment to the first time you ever wondered about out there. Maybe it was as a child, standing barefoot in your backyard at night, craning your neck to take in the scatter of stars above. They seemed impossibly far away, yet close enough to stir something inside you. You might have asked yourself, what's beyond them? If I kept going, where would I stop? This question has been with humanity for as long as we've had eyes to gaze upward. Ancient people spun myths about the edges of the cosmos. Some imagined the heavens as a solid dome, a vast upside-down bowl arched over a flat earth. The stars, they thought, were tiny pinpricks in that dome, little holes that let distant firelight leak through. In some traditions, the sky was held up by literal walls or pillars, divine architecture, keeping everything in place. It wasn't ignorance, it was imagination. What else could explain the mysterious ceiling above? And if there was a ceiling, then surely there had to be something beyond it, a higher realm, perhaps the dwelling place of gods. For those early sky watchers, the universe felt enclosed, structured, safe inside its shell. Even now, when you know the sky isn't a hard surface, that same impulse lingers in you. Infinity can feel slippery, overwhelming, almost too big to grasp. Your mind instinctively searches for edges, for walls, for a finish line. After all, endings are comforting. Books end, roads end, lives end. Shouldn't space end too? But the universe has a way of humbling our instincts. Every time people have drawn a boundary, nature has quietly nudged it farther away. Once, the end was the edge of the village. Then it was the far horizon of the Earth. Later it was the borders of the solar system. And each time we peeked beyond, there was more land, more sky, more stars waiting in the dark. It's almost as if the cosmos enjoys a gentle joke at our expense, letting us think we've reached the limit before slowly unveiling yet another curtain. And so the question remains, lingering in the stillness of the night, always waiting to be asked again. Does it really ever end? When you pause under a night sky, it feels calm, steady, almost eternal. Yet the truth is that space isn't static at all. It's dynamic, stretching, bending, expanding like a vast fabric that never stops shifting. The very question of whether it ends depends on how you imagine that fabric. Is it flat and infinite? Is it curved, wrapping back on itself like the surface of a sphere? Or is it something stranger still, a geometry we can hardly picture in our minds? Even scientists admit this is one of those questions that hovers on the border of science and philosophy. They can measure, model, and theorize, but infinity doesn't sit neatly on a chalkboard. Some argue that space might be infinite in extent, an endless stage where galaxies play out their stories forever. Others suggest it might be finite but unbounded, like walking around the surface of the Earth. You never find an edge, but eventually you could loop back to where you started. Of course, your intuition pushes back. A world without walls feels unsettling. How can there be no end? If you've ever tried to imagine nothingness, you probably pictured a kind of empty blackness, yet that's still something. True nothingness, the absolute absence of space and time, is harder to hold in your head than a dream you can't quite remember after waking. And so, you reach for metaphors. Some people imagine space like an ocean, others picture it as a balloon, expanding outward as if galaxies were dots on its surface. These images aren't perfect, but they give your mind something to cling to, a way to wrap a blanket around the chill of infinity. Meanwhile, our instruments' telescopes perched on mountaintops and orbiting satellites high above Earth have shown us that the universe does in fact expand. Every galaxy not bound to us by gravity drifts farther away, the fabric between us stretching thinner with time. That discovery alone changed the way we think about edges. If everything is rushing away, then perhaps the end of space isn't a physical wall but a kind of horizon, a place beyond which we can never see, no matter how powerful our tools become. It's humbling to realize that even as you lie here tonight, breathing slowly in a quiet room, the universe above you is growing larger every second. Galaxies slip farther apart. The night sky rearranges itself, invisibly, like a vast puzzle spreading into new shapes. You can't feel it, but it's happening all the same, an unending drift that has no finish line in sight. And somewhere in that drifting, your question lives on. Does space end, or does it only keep unfolding, curtain after curtain, forever? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine walking toward the horizon. Each step you take brings you closer, yet the horizon never gets any nearer. It retreats quietly, patiently, as though it enjoys the game. That is what thinking about the edge of space feels like. Every answer you chase simply slips farther away. This isn't new. For centuries, astronomers have built bigger telescopes, reaching farther into the dark. Each time, the universe answered back by revealing more. What seemed like the ultimate boundary, the faint shimmer of the Milky Way, turned out to be just one galaxy among billions. What felt like the edge of existence was simply a neighborhood street, and beyond it stretched a cosmic city with no visible borders. There's a humility in that realization. It whispers that no matter how clever you are, the universe will always keep a part of itself hidden. Scientists sometimes joke that cosmology is the only field where you can be wrong forever and still keep your job because the answers are so vast, so slippery, that even the best minds can only sketch outlines in the dark. Yet that mystery is comforting too. It means the sky will never run out of secrets. Perhaps that's why the question of space's end feels so timeless. It isn't just a scientific puzzle, it's a mirror reflecting human longing. To ask if space ends is to ask if you end, if stories end, if anything truly does. It is both a child's wonder and an adult's quiet fear, woven together beneath the stars. And as you lie here now, listening in the soft dark, the question hums gently in the background of your thoughts. You don't need to solve it tonight. You don't even need to hold on to it. Just let it float like a lantern released into the sky, drifting farther and farther until it disappears among the constellations. Because the beauty of this endless question is not in finding a final answer, but in letting it carry you outward, past the walls of your room, past the curve of Earth, past the clouds of stars toward whatever lies beyond. Imagine yourself thousands of years ago, lying on cool stone or packed earth staring up at the same night sky you see now. There are no telescopes, no satellites, no streetlights. The darkness is thicker, the stars sharper, the Milky Way a pale river pouring across the heavens. To ancient eyes, this canvas demanded explanation. For many cultures, the most natural idea was that the sky was a ceiling, something solid stretched above the world. You can understand why. The dome shape is persuasive, the heavens curve overhead like the inside of a great bowl, and everything you see, the sun, the moon, the stars, appears to move across that bowl in predictable paths. In Mesopotamia, Scribes etched cuneiform tablets with star charts, carefully mapping constellations that they believed held divine messages. To them, the sky wasn't just decoration, it was a tablet written by the gods, the curved roof of existence itself. Egyptian priests, too, imagined the heavens as a goddess arching her body over the earth, her limbs touching the ground at the horizon. Every sunrise was her birthing of the sun, every sunset was her swallowing it again. Even in the Old Testament, you find echoes of this idea. God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above. The word firmament literally means a solid structure, hammered into place. To those who first spoke it, the heavens were a vault blue in the day, sprinkled with lights at night, and held up by divine craftsmanship. To you, lying in bed tonight with science books behind you, this might sound quaint, but place yourself back in their sandals. Night after night, you look up. You see patterns repeating, cycles of moonlight, wandering planets tracing strange paths. You wonder what keeps it all from crashing down. A solid dome feels comforting, a cosmic ceiling makes sense. And the thought that gods live just above that ceiling, that too feels logical in a world where mystery is everywhere. The quirky part is how universal this dome idea became. Separated by oceans, cultures that never met often pictured the sky as a lid, a tent, a roof. It's as though the human mind, searching for order, gravitates to the same solution. When you see a curve above your head, you assume it's a ceiling. Even now, part of you can't shake that impression. Travel further in your imagination, across seas and deserts, and you find that almost every culture gazed upward and drew its own architecture of the heavens. In ancient India, texts spoke of the sky as layered realms stacked one above the other, like invisible terraces climbing upward into infinity. Each layer belonged to different deities or spirits, a cosmic apartment complex filled with myth and meaning. The physical dome overhead was only the lowest floor of a much grander palace. The Norse imagined a great tree, Yggdrasil, its branches stretching into the heavens, its roots plunging deep into unseen realms. The sky itself was the skull of a giant yes, a skull turned upside down to form a roof above the world. Morbid perhaps, but oddly poetic, and in its way comforting, the sky was literally the bones of creation. For the Greeks, the heavens were crystalline spheres, each carrying planets and stars like jewels embedded in glass. Aristotle described them as perfect, unchanging, unlike the flawed and messy earth below. To lie beneath that vision was to believe you were at the center of something ordered, something exquisitely designed. Notice the pattern. Again and again, people chose shapes. They knew domes, lids, layers, spheres, roofs. The familiar made the unfathomable less frightening. To imagine the sky as endless emptiness would have been unsettling, a thought too slippery to sleep beneath. A ceiling, at least, gives you shelter. And yet, even in those early times, whispers of doubt crept in. Some philosophers wondered if the heavens were infinite after all. Could the stars go on forever, with no wall, no vault, no edge? Others dismissed the idea as absurd, insisting that infinity was impossible, that something so boundless would be meaningless. You can feel that tension even now, the human heart craving both safety and wonder. A dome makes the night manageable, an endless sky makes it terrifying and beautiful. Now drift in your mind to the Americas. Long before telescopes crossed oceans, the Maya watched the heavens with such care that they could predict eclipses centuries in advance. To them, the sky was not only a dome, but a living calendar. Each star rising, each planet wandering was part of a cosmic script. They imagined the Milky Way as a celestial river, sometimes even a great serpent stretching across the night. That snake had boundaries, its body arching from horizon to horizon, so the sky itself must have had them too. In the far north, Inuit storytellers spoke of the sky as a land turned upside down, with its own people and hunters living above the stars. Some believed the aurora borealis, the dancing northern lights, were the spirits of the departed, playing ball with a walrus skull, tossing it across the roof of the world. Strange, playful, a little eerie, but once again, the heavens had structure, a place where stories could live. Even in China, early astronomers tracked the sky with astonishing detail, yet many still spoke of the firmament as a solid cover, a dome turning slowly like the lid of a celestial pot. The stars were lights affixed to that turning lid, and the Emperor's power? It was said to reflect the harmony of heaven and earth, as if politics itself depended on the ceiling above staying firm. It's fascinating how these myths reveal the same instinct you feel in your own quiet moments under the stars, a desire for order, for walls, for definition. The endless can be dizzying. But a dome, a roof, a layered palace that you can imagine as you close your eyes. And yet, not everyone was satisfied. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Democritus dared to suggest the universe might be infinite, filled with countless worlds beyond our own. To many of his peers, that sounded outrageous, even dangerous. If the sky had no edge, then where would the gods dwell? If there were other worlds, what did that mean for ours? Such thoughts threatened the neat architecture of domes and spheres. You can sense the quiet debate, echoing across centuries. Is the sky a shelter or a door? Is it something that keeps you safe, or something that invites you into infinity? Picture yourself lying back under that ancient sky. No screens, no street lamps, only the steady flicker of firelight nearby. The stars are sharper than you've ever seen, the Milky Way so bright it looks like spilled flour scattered across black stone. In that stillness, the idea of a cosmic dome feels not only believable but inevitable. How else could all that brilliance stay neatly above without crashing down? This is why myths of sky arches and celestial roofs lasted so long. They weren't just stories, they were solutions to a mystery that pressed itself into every pair of eyes that dared to look up. A dome was protection, a vault was order, and even if the dome was imagined, it was something people could sleep beneath without fear. And yet, slowly, cracks appeared in that dome, cracks not of stone but of thought. Philosophers argued late into the night about whether infinity was possible. Could the stars simply go on forever? Or was the dome just farther away than anyone had guessed? Some thinkers found infinity inspiring, others recoiled, insisting that the human mind needed limits. Without an edge, how could you measure or orient yourself or understand your place? Centuries later, telescopes would scatter those old ceilings forever, revealing that the dome was an illusion all along. But in the age before glass lenses and equations, the heavens remained a roof, a comforting, enclosing shell that separated earth below from mystery above. Tonight, as you lie here listening, you can almost feel that same ancient comfort. The idea that the sky is a dome may be outdated, but it still tugs gently at you. It reminds you that even when we misunderstand the cosmos, our stories are ways of making peace with the unknown. And so, the legacy of those ancient skies endures. Domes, arches, vaults, and firmaments, each one a human attempt to draw a line where there might be none. Each one an answer to that endless question that still hums above you. Does space ever end, or is the dome just a dream? You've asked yourself the grand question, does space ever end? But before you can follow that thread to infinity, you need to pause and ask something smaller, something closer to home. Where does space even begin? It seems obvious at first. Look up tonight, past the glow of your window, past the faint outline of your roof, and there it is, the sky. Dark, star-flecked, quiet. Surely, you think, that's space. But the truth is, a little trickier. The air around you doesn't suddenly stop. It fades gradually, thinning with each kilometre, like mist dissipating into clear water. There is no sharp border where you can point and say, this is Earth, that is space. Scientists, of course, like definitions. They wanted a line, something tidy to mark the crossover. And so came the Kármán line, an invisible boundary, 100 kilometres above sea level, chosen not because the air stops there, it doesn't, but because that's roughly the altitude where wings stop working. Above that height, airplanes can't generate lift in the thinning air. You'd need rockets instead. Picture yourself drifting upward in an imaginary elevator. At 10 kilometres, you pass through the cruising altitude of jets. At 20, the sky around you deepens into indigo. At 50, you're brushing the stratosphere where meteors begin to glow. And at 100 kilometres, you cross the Kármán line, the point where the laws of flight give way to the laws of orbit. Technically, you're now an astronaut. You've entered space, or at least a definition of it. Yet definitions are slippery things. Some agencies use 80 kilometers as the edge of space, others stick with 100. The boundary is more agreement than reality. Nature doesn't draw lines, humans do. It's a little like the way cities bleed into suburbs, suburbs into countryside. Where does the city end? Somewhere between the last streetlight and the first cricket song, you decide. Space is the same. A gradient, a fading, a sky that becomes thinner until it becomes something else entirely. And as you imagine yourself crossing that invisible threshold, floating higher than planes can climb, you realize even the smallest version of the question where space begins already resists a simple answer. As you rise in that imaginary elevator, the layers of air slip past you like pages in a fading book. The troposphere, where clouds churn and storms are born, gives way to the stratosphere, calm and blue. Keep going, and you'll reach the mesosphere, a region no jetliner dares to enter. Here, shooting stars flare briefly as grains of cosmic dust meet the thin air and burn themselves away in streaks of light. Higher still, the thermosphere greets you with paradoxes. Temperatures soaring to thousands of degrees Celsius, yet so few particles that you would still feel cold. This is where auroras dance, curtains of green and purple woven by solar winds colliding with Earth's magnetic shield. It is already a space-like realm, silent, dark, barely touched by weather. And above that lies the exosphere, a name that sounds almost like a sigh. Here, atoms and molecules drift so far apart they can wander for hundreds of kilometers without bumping into one another. Some even escape Earth's pull entirely, leaking away into space like whispers carried off by the wind. Now pause and think, where in this ascent did you feel that you had left Earth? Was it when the clouds fell away, when meteors began to flash, when the aurora painted the sky, or only when you crossed that tidy line at 100 kilometers? Humanity has wrestled with this same question. When Yuri Gagarin orbited Earth in 1961, the world celebrated the first person in space. But at what exact moment did he cross into it? Was it during the roaring launch, when the rocket broke through the thickest layers of atmosphere, or only once he was gliding weightlessly above the globe, gazing down at clouds that no longer enclosed him? The quirky part is that even now, decades later, there's no absolute agreement. Some pilots who flew high-altitude planes in the 1,962nd received astronaut wings for crossing 80 kilometers, even though modern definitions often demand 100. It's as if space has multiple doors, and which one you choose depends on who is holding the key. Scientists still debate whether any single line makes sense at all. Space, after all, is not a place you step into, it's a condition, a change in how physics behaves, a slow shift rather than a sudden doorway. And lying here tonight, you realize that the beginning of space is as elusive as its end, always shifting, always fading, never quite where you expect it to be. Imagine, for a moment, that you are strapped inside a capsule, lying on your back, engines rumbling below. The countdown reaches 0, and the rocket pushes upward with a force that pins you into your seat. At first, it feels like any airplane ride, clouds whipping past, the sky lightening, the ground shrinking below. But then, as minutes pass, the blue overhead deepens into velvet black, and something strange happens. The roar softens into silence, the pressure lifts from your chest, and your stomach drifts as though it has forgotten gravity. You've crossed into what pilots call the weightless frontier. No dome cracked, no gate opened, no alarm sounded to announce space. It was gradual one moment, air still thick enough to resist you, the next so thin it may as well not exist. In that silence, you look back and see Earth beneath you, round and radiant, wrapped in a fragile halo of atmosphere, and in that instant, you understand why defining the edge of space is so slippery. From up here, the line feels both real and imaginary at once. The astronauts who first glimpsed this sight spoke of a profound shift. Some called it the overview effect, a sudden awareness of Earth as a single delicate world floating in darkness. Borders disappeared. Politics felt trivial. What mattered was that thin blue line of air that kept everything alive. Ironically, it was only when they left Earth that they realized how inseparable from it they were. And yet, even with those stirring accounts, arguments linger. Is the Kármán line the true boundary? Or should space begin wherever the atmosphere is no longer able to shield you, perhaps even lower than 80 kilometers? Others go the opposite direction, suggesting that you haven't truly entered space until you are in orbit, falling around Earth fast enough never to come down. By that definition, space doesn't start at 100 kilometers at all, but at the precise altitude and velocity that let you circle the planet like a moon. Definitions shift because the truth is hard to cage. Space isn't a room you step into, it's a continuum, a thinning veil. You don't leave Earth as much as you fade away from its grip, slowly, gently, like a balloon drifting higher into a night sky that never announces where it ends. And as you lie here tonight, half awake, you might feel that same blur, the way wakefulness fades into dreams, not with a line but with a drift. The edge of space is like the edge of sleep, uncertain, shifting, and endlessly mysterious. Think about how strange it is that we crave neat edges. The human mind likes borders, doors, walls, fences, things that tell us where one realm ends and another begins. Yet when it comes to space, the edges blur. They blur in altitude, in physics, even in meaning. Consider satellites. Thousands of them circle above your head right now. Some skim barely above the atmosphere, brushing through wisps of air that tug them downward bit by bit. Others orbit high in geostationary paths, hovering over the same spot on Earth like invisible lanterns. Are they in space? Absolutely. And yet they're still inside Earth's exosphere, still brushing against the last breath of our atmosphere. They live in a twilight zone space and not space, both at once. Then there are suborbital flights, tiny rockets that carry tourists or experiments up past the Kármán line for a few thrilling minutes of weightlessness before falling back. Do those passengers become astronauts the instant they cross 100 kilometers? Some would argue yes. Others say no, that true spacefaring means circling Earth, not just peaking above the line. Even legal systems struggle with this. International treaties declare that space is free for all nations, belonging to no single country. But if we can't agree on where space begins, then where exactly does national airspace end? At 80 kilometers? At 100? Higher? The debate is more than philosophical. It shapes law, policy, and the future of exploration. And yet, lying here tonight, you realize how abstract those arguments feel compared to the simple awe of looking up. For you, the beginning of space isn't a number on a chart. It's that first glimpse of stars scattered in velvet black, unsoftened by atmosphere. It's the way silence deepens when you imagine floating above clouds, untethered, drifting into the endless. So maybe the true boundary isn't about altitude at all. Maybe it begins the moment you allow yourself to wonder, to tilt your head back and let the stars fill your eyes. In that sense, you've already crossed into space tonight, without rockets, without wings, simply by asking the question. And with that thought, we leave behind the threshold of Earth's air and prepare to wander further into the wider realms where suns, planets, and cosmic winds define the next edges to explore. As you drift beyond the thinning breath of Earth's atmosphere, your gaze turns outward. The question shifts. No longer, where does space begin, but where does our place in space end? You belong to a planetary system, a little family orbiting a modest star, and like any family, it has boundaries. But where do those boundaries lie? At first glance, the answer seems obvious. The solar system ends after Neptune, the last of the 8 recognized planets. Beyond that, only darkness. But almost immediately the picture complicates. Neptune is not an ending, but a beginning. Beyond it stretches a region filled with icy debris, a belt of ancient leftovers called the Kuiper Belt. Here dwell small, frozen worlds like Pluto, once called the 9th planet, and still carrying a touch of melancholy in its demotion. Pluto and its neighbours drift in slow, distant paths, so far from the sun that daylight is dimmer than a full moon on Earth. Imagine standing there, the sun no brighter than a star, the warmth barely enough to nudge the frost beneath your feet. It feels like the edge of everything, but it is not. Because farther out still, astronomers suspect an even greater realm, the Oort cloud, a spherical shell of icy bodies extending perhaps halfway to the next star. If it exists as predicted, then the solar system is not a tidy disk but a vast bubble, a sphere of influence stretching trillions of kilometers in every direction. By that definition, you wouldn't leave our solar neighborhood until you were already light years from home. It's humbling to think that what textbooks once called the solar system just the planets we memorized in order, was only the inner courtyard of a much larger estate. We live not at the edge of a neat little system, but near the warm hearth in the middle of a sprawling half-seen domain. And so the question returns, softened but persistent: when do you stop belonging to the sun and start belonging to the galaxy? The answer, like so much else in the cosmos, depends on how you choose to draw the line. Close your eyes and imagine yourself sailing outward on an invisible ship, leaving Earth behind, gliding past Mars, past Jupiter's stormy clouds, past Saturn's rings shimmering like silver jewelry in the dark. You pass Uranus, Neptune, and finally drift into that twilight region where the sun has grown faint and pale. Surely, you think, this must be the edge. But the sun is more stubborn than it looks. Its gravity reaches far beyond the last planets, tugging at comets and icy fragments that circle it in lazy, elongated loops. Its light, though dim, continues outward too, spilling into the darkness until it fades into the glow of distant stars. And its breath, the solar wind, stretches even farther, a stream of charged particles that creates an invisible bubble around us called the heliosphere. The heliosphere is like a protective cocoon, shielding us from much of the galaxy's harsh radiation. Where it finally yields, where the solar wind slows and merges into the thin gas between the stars, lies a boundary called the heliopause. Astronomers often point to this as the true edge of the solar system, not where planets stop, but where the sun's influence gives way to the broader galaxy. And here's a fascinating detail. 2 spacecraft, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, launched in the late 1972, have actually crossed this boundary. They are now drifting in interstellar space, carrying with them golden records etched with music and greetings from Earth. These tiny messengers have travelled farther than any human-made object before, slipping through the edge of our star's neighbourhood into the wilderness beyond. Yet even this edge isn't a sharp wall. The heliopause is more like a fog bank, its position shifting with the moods of the sun and the tides of interstellar gas. One day it may be a little closer, another day a little farther, as though the solar system breathes in and out with cosmic lungs. So once again you find yourself asking, where does it end? At Neptune? At the Kuiper Belt? At the Oort cloud? At the heliopause? Each answer is both correct and incomplete, like layers of an onion peeling outward into infinity. And lying here tonight, listening in the dark, you realize that your own neighborhood is both smaller and larger than you thought. Small because you live on a tiny planet circling a small star, yet vast because that star's reach extends unimaginably far into the silence. Picture yourself drifting even farther, past the icy dwarfs of the Kuiper Belt, into the vast gulf where sunlight is little more than a memory. Out here, comets wait in darkness, dirty snowballs left over from the birth of the solar system, some perhaps older than Earth itself. This region, the hypothetical Oort cloud, has never been seen directly. It exists as an elegant deduction. Long-period comets, the ones that take thousands of years to return, must come from somewhere. Astronomers imagine them forming a shell around the sun, scattered like grains of frost around a lamp in the night. If the Oort cloud is real, it stretches halfway to the nearest stars. That means the sun's neighbourhood overlaps with the neighbourhoods of others, just as one village's fields might blur into another's. There is no fence, no cosmic "Welcome to Alpha Centauri" sign, just a fading influence, a gradient of gravity, until another star's pull begins to dominate. This is where definitions grow philosophical. Does the solar system end where the sun's gravity becomes too weak to hold sway, or does it end where the sun's light no longer outshines the glow of surrounding stars? Or perhaps it ends only in the human mind when we grow tired of calling something ours and surrender it to the galaxy. Think of Voyager again. Even though it has crossed the heliopause, its path is still shaped, however faintly, by the Sunday. It will be tens of thousands of years before it drifts far enough to fall fully under the sway of another star. Until then, it remains a child of our solar neighbourhood, no matter how far it roams. It's almost funny. The closer you look for an ending, the farther it recedes. Each new definition planetary orbits, Kuiper Belt, Oort cloud, heliopause, adds another curtain. The stage keeps unfolding. The edge of the solar system is less a line and more a series of veils drifting outward in silence. And as you imagine yourself floating there tonight, suspended in that distant shell of icy relics, you realize the edges we seek are rarely as firm as we want them to be. The solar system doesn't stop. It fades, like twilight blending into night. So here you are, hovering in thought at the farthest reaches of the sun's domain. Behind you, the planets form a tiny chain of pearls glinting faintly in the distance. Ahead of you lies the deeper dark, where the pull of other stars begins to mingle with our own. You've wandered far, yet the question still lingers. Has the solar system ended, or are you still within its embrace? Astronomers themselves can't give you a single answer. Some draw the line at Neptune, for the sake of neatness. Others insist the heliopause is the only true edge. Still others point to the Oort cloud, far beyond even Voyager's path, as the final border of the sun's reach. And some say there is no clear end at all, only zones that fade gradually, like ripples spreading out from a stone tossed into water. What matters, perhaps, is not the technical definition, but the perspective it gives you. To know that you live inside this bubble, a fragile sphere of warmth, light, and protection, makes you feel both small and sheltered. It's like being in a quiet village surrounded by endless wilderness. Beyond the last streetlight, the dark forest begins, and though you can't see its edge, you know it's there, waiting. The quirky truth is that we've never physically touched most of these boundaries. Voyager has crossed into interstellar space, but no human has ventured beyond the moon. Our solar neighbourhood remains, in many ways, a map drawn from hints, a comet's trajectory here, a faint particle measurement there, stitched together into an invisible frontier. The edges are theoretical, imagined, almost dreamlike fitting, perhaps, for a universe that seems designed to blur certainty. And so, as you lie here tonight, you carry the solar system with you like a softly glowing lantern. Its borders may be hazy, but its presence is undeniable. A family of worlds, a protective bubble, a sun that still calls the shots far into the dark. The edge, if it exists, is less like a fence and more like a horizon, always there, always retreating, forever inviting you onward. From here, our quiet journey will drift past the sun's invisible breath and into the wider wilderness, the frozen frontier where comets slumber, waiting to return, and where the influence of our star finally loosens its grip. Imagine yourself floating outward, leaving behind the last familiar worlds of our solar family. The sun is no longer a blazing presence but a bright star, warm enough to guide you yet too faint to cast sharp shadows. Out here, there are no rings, no planets, no comforting landmarks, and still, though you are billions of kilometers away, you remain inside the sun's embrace. That embrace is invisible, the heliosphere, a bubble inflated by the solar wind. Every second, the sun exhales a stream of charged particles, protons, electrons, fragments of plasma rushing outward in all directions. They travel faster than 1,000,000 kilometers per hour, so swift that they sweep past Earth in just a few days. You cannot see them, but their presence is everywhere. They carve tails in comets, shape auroras in polar skies, and push against the vast ocean of particles between the stars. The heliosphere is like the sun's personal atmosphere, except it stretches unimaginably farther than clouds ever could. Picture a soap bubble, but one with a diameter measured in billions of kilometers. Earth lies deep inside it, a child nestled safely in its mother's arms. At the outer edge, this bubble pushes against the thin, restless gas of interstellar space, creating a kind of frontier where two winds meet. Voyager 1, launched in 1977, crossed this frontier in 2012. Voyager 2 followed in 2018. Both spacecraft felt the same thing, a subtle but unmistakable shift. Inside the bubble, the solar wind was dominant, a current flowing outward. Outside, the wind gave way to a different tide, the cosmic rays and plasma of the galaxy itself. Crossing that line is like leaving the warmth of your porch light and stepping into the wider night. And yet, the bubble isn't smooth or simple. It billows and ripples, squeezed here, stretched there, depending on how the sun breathes and how the galaxy presses back. In some directions the heliosphere reaches farther, in others it bows inward. It is a living boundary, always shifting, never still. As you imagine yourself drifting near that edge tonight, you can almost feel the quiet tension, two oceans pressing against each other. one warm and familiar, the other cold and alien. And in that balance, you find the sun's true reach, not a line of planets, but a breath that stretches into the void. If you could hover at the edge of the heliosphere, it would not look like any horizon, you know. There is no visible wall, no glowing curtain marking the boundary. Instead, you would feel it in the numbers, subtle changes in the streams of particles brushing against your skin, if you could sense such things. Inside, the solar wind flows steadily outward. Step a little farther, and suddenly the direction shifts. The current no longer carries the sun's breath, but the chill spray of the galaxy. Astronomers give names to these regions, like cartographers sketching unknown coasts. First comes the termination shock, where the solar wind slows dramatically as it collides with the thin gas between the stars. Beyond that lies the heliosheath, a turbulent borderland where solar particles swirl in confusion. And then, at last, the heliopause, the place where the sun's wind finally surrenders, yielding to the wider sea of interstellar space. To picture it, imagine a ship sailing down a river. As long as the current runs strong, the ship knows it is still within the river's domain. But eventually the current falters, slowing, spreading, until the river merges into the vast ocean beyond. The heliosphere is that river. The galaxy is the ocean. The quirky twist is that this bubble is not perfectly round. In some directions the sun's wind pushes farther. In others, the galaxy presses back harder, squeezing the bubble into odd shapes. Some models even suggest it might resemble a croissant, with long tails streaming behind the sun as it drifts through the Milky Way. Imagine that, our entire solar system sailing through space inside a cosmic pastry. Scientists still debate the exact size of the heliosphere. Voyager's instruments hint at one answer, computer models another. The numbers shift depending on the strength of the solar wind, which rises and falls with the sun's 11-year cycle. Some estimates place the heliopause at about 120 astronomical units from the sun. That's 120 times farther than Earth is. Others suggest it may extend much farther or change shape over time. And lying here tonight, you realize how fragile and thin this bubble really is. Beyond it lies the galaxy's raw environment, harsh cosmic rays, faster winds, ancient particles drifting since the birth of the stars. Inside, we are sheltered, cradled in the sun's protective breath. The edge of the heliosphere may be billions of kilometers away, but in a way, it is also your front door. Think of the heliosphere as a kind of invisible cradle. You don't see it, you don't feel it, and yet your entire life has unfolded inside it. Every breath you've ever taken, every night sky you've ever admired, all of it happened within this bubble of the sun's making. It is a shelter so vast that it swallows the planet's whole, yet so delicate that the galaxy's breath is always pressing against it. The existence of such a bubble changes how you see your place in the cosmos. To you, Earth feels like home. To astronauts, the moon orbits feel like thresholds. But to the galaxy, your true address is inside the heliosphere. It's as if the sun has drawn a circle around its children, a cosmic boundary saying, "These are mine, held close by my warmth and wind." When Voyager crossed that circle, scientists held their breath. Would the spacecraft be battered by sudden storms of cosmic rays? Would its faint signal vanish into the noise? Instead, it kept talking, its tiny antenna whispering across billions of kilometers. Its instruments confirmed the shift. The sun's particles had faded, the galaxies had grown strong. Humanity had stepped, however timidly, into the larger sea. And yet, debates ripple even now. Some researchers argue that the heliopause isn't a clean surface, but a messy overlap, where solar particles and galactic particles mingle like two crowds merging in a narrow street. Others suggest there might be multiple layers, a series of subtle borders rather than one clear line. Nature, as usual, prefers gradients over absolutes. The quirky irony is that while the heliosphere protects us from much of the galaxy's radiation, it also hides us. If some faraway civilization were scanning for signs of life, the bubble might blur our signals, dimming Earth's radio chatter against the cosmic background. In a way, the heliosphere acts like both a shield and a veil guarding us, but also muffling us. And so, as you drift with your thoughts tonight, imagine yourself resting against that fragile edge. On one side, home, warmth, the familiar pulse of the Sunday. On the other, a cold wilderness filled with particles older than our star, drifting in from every direction. The heliosphere is not just a scientific boundary, it is the sun's lullaby, sung softly into the void, cradling you until you're ready to dream of something beyond. Now picture the sun itself, a star quietly sailing through the Milky Way. As it drifts, the bubble around it drifts too, shifting, stretching, compressing like the wake of a ship moving through unseen currents. You live inside this vessel, sheltered, though you rarely think of it. The heliosphere is both armor and cocoon, a moving home carried along by a single star. Astronomers sometimes call it the sun's last defense. Without it, cosmic rays from distant supernovae would stream toward Earth more freely, striking our atmosphere and our DNA with reckless intensity. Life here might still exist, but it would be far more fragile, exposed to storms from across the galaxy. The fact that you are lying here now, safe enough to wonder where the space ends, owes something to this invisible bubble you never see. And still, the boundary is not eternal. One day, billions of years from now, the sun will exhaust its fuel, swelling into a red giant. Its winds will change, its protective breath faltering. The heliosphere will collapse, shrinking back until it fades entirely. Long before that day, Earth may be gone, but the bubble's story will remind you, even stars cannot hold their borders forever. In the meantime, Voyager sails on. Each passing day carries it farther into interstellar space, a tiny ambassador wrapped in silence. On its golden record, human voices and songs travel outward, greetings, music, even the sound of waves and birdsong. They carry a message across the sun's edge, like whispers slipping past a doorway. We were here, we wondered. And so tonight, as you lie beneath your own ceiling of stars, the heliosphere is still holding you close. You may not feel it, but you live in the warmth of its shield. Beyond it, the galaxy waits immense, restless, indifferent. But within it, there is a fragile safety, enough for you to close your eyes and dream of the next frontier. Because soon, our journey will follow that frontier even farther, into the frozen realm where comets sleep and the sun's influence dwindles into darkness, the edge of the Oort cloud, and the beginning of true interstellar night. Beyond the shifting edge of the heliosphere, where the sun's breath finally mingles with the galaxy's wind, lies a region more mysterious still. It is not bright with planets or lively with moons. It is a realm of silence and distance, where the sun's warmth is little more than a memory. Astronomers call it the Oort cloud, a frozen frontier, a shell of icy bodies drifting at the farthest reaches of the solar system. No telescope has ever seen it directly. You cannot look through an eyepiece and spot an Oort cloud comet waiting patiently in the dark. Its existence is inferred, deduced from the long, looping paths of comets that arrive in our skies. Some take thousands, even millions of years to complete a single orbit. Their journeys are so vast that they could only have begun from an enormous reservoir, a sphere of icy fragments encasing the solar system like a ghostly halo. Imagine yourself drifting there now, billions of kilometers from home. The sun behind you is no more than a bright star, barely distinguishable from the others. Around you float icy mountains, some as small as pebbles, others as large as planets, all frozen since the dawn of time. They circle the sun slowly, lazily, like sleepwalkers moving through a dream. The distances here defy easy thought. If the solar system were shrunk so that Earth sat 1 meter from the sun, the Oort cloud would lie several kilometers away. It is less a neighborhood and more an entire countryside, vast, sparse, quiet, and yet it belongs to us, bound faintly by the sun's gravity, the final whisper of our star's domain. This frozen frontier is more than a boundary. It is also a library. Every icy shard carries a record of the early solar system, preserved in cold storage for billions of years. When a passing star or galactic tide nudges one of them inward, it awakens from its slumber, falling toward the warmth of the sun and blazing across our skies as a comet. To you, it appears as a streak of light, brief, beautiful, but in truth, it is a visitor from the very edge, a messenger reminding you how far the sun's reach really extends. The Oort cloud is, in many ways, the solar system's attic filled with ancient leftovers, rarely visited, but holding clues to how everything began. Astronomers believe it was born in the early days of the sun, when planets were still forming and giant worlds like Jupiter and Saturn were busy rearranging the pieces. Their enormous gravity scattered countless icy bodies outward, flinging them far into the dark until they settled into vast orbits, some so wide they will never return in the lifetime of our species. Think of it as the solar system tidying up after its own creation, sweeping icy crumbs into the farthest corners. Those crumbs became the Oort cloud, a population so immense it may hold trillions of objects. Most are quiet, unseen, but every so often one is disturbed by a passing star or the subtle tug of the Milky Way's gravity. That gentle nudge can send it tumbling back toward the sun, where, after thousands of years, it finally reveals itself in the form of a comet's bright tail. To you, lying in bed, a comet may look like a fleeting decoration in the sky, a streak of light across a summer night. But in truth, it's a survivor from the frozen frontier, carrying ices older than Earth itself. Water in your glass tonight may once have come from such comets, sprinkling Earth with oceans in its earliest days. In that sense, the Oort cloud is not only a boundary, it may be part of your origin story. The quirky part is how fragile this imagined cloud is. A nearby star drifting too close could disturb its balance, sending showers of comets inward. Some scientists even suggest that mass extinctions in Earth's history might have been sparked by such encounters, a cosmic neighbour brushing past, rattling the shelves of our attic, sending icy debris raining down. It's both awe-inspiring and a little unsettling to think that the rhythm of life on Earth might be tied to distant visitors stirring the Oort cloud. Yet here, in the quiet of your own night, it is easier to imagine the Oort cloud not as a danger but as a lullaby of distance. A soft shell around the sun, invisible but immense, keeping the solar system wrapped in a sphere of frozen time. It is the place where endings blur into beginnings, where the sun's authority fades and the galaxy whispers in. Imagine yourself drifting slowly between those icy wanderers. They are scattered so widely that you could travel millions of kilometers before meeting another, and yet the cloud as a whole surrounds you in every direction, like a faint mist of glassy worlds. Each one is silent, frozen for billions of years, waiting for a chance encounter with gravity to set it moving. If you could reach out and touch one, you'd find a surface of frozen water, ammonia, methane chemistry locked in place since before Earth's oceans formed. It would be like holding a time capsule, a piece of the solar system's childhood preserved in eternal cold. Astronomers sometimes call the Oort cloud a cosmic deep freeze, a pantry of ingredients that may have seeded planets, comets, and even life itself. From here, the sun is just another star, brighter than most but not commanding. Its grip on these distant objects is faint, tugged and twisted by the passing weight of other stars drifting through the galaxy. In fact, some of the comets that fall toward us may not even be from our solar system at all. They could be interstellar visitors, tossed loose from another star's Oort cloud and captured briefly by ours. Your neighbourhood, it turns out, is porous, blending into the next. This raises debates that scientists still puzzle over. Does the Oort cloud really belong to the sun if other stars can reach in and stir it? Or is it already part of the Milky Way itself, a region where stellar neighbourhoods overlap like fields with no fences? Some argue that the solar system has no true edge here, only a fading of influence, a blending of one gravity into another. The quirky thought is that if intelligent beings around another star were to look outward, they too might imagine a vast Oort cloud surrounding their home. And somewhere, deep in the galactic night, those shells might even brush against each other like invisible bubbles pressing together. It means that in a strange, quiet way, you and they already share a boundary, even if you never meet. Lying in bed tonight, you can almost picture it. Countless shells of ice surrounding countless stars, overlapping and merging into one another, like lanterns glowing faintly in the dark. Your Oort cloud is just one in an endless constellation of frozen frontiers, each whispering that edges are never as simple as we wish them to be. Here at the edge of the sun's dominion, the idea of belonging becomes fragile. You are still tethered, faintly, to the gravity of the sun, yet every passing star, every tide of the galaxy, tugs at the same icy seeds. It is as if the solar system is whispering to you, I end here, but not really. I fade into the next story. Think of the Oort cloud as both frontier and bridge. For comets, it is a waiting room, an endless drift until a gravitational nudge sends them falling inward, blazing as streaks of light across our skies. For us, It is a conceptual edge, the last halo we can still call our own before surrendering to the Milky Way. And for the galaxy, it is simply another swirl of debris, indistinguishable from countless others, swept along in the spiral arms. Astronomers continue to debate whether the Oort cloud has an outer boundary at all. Some models suggest it stretches halfway to Proxima Centauri, our nearest stellar neighbour. If true, then your solar system is not a small island but an archipelago, its outskirts blending with the outskirts of another. Edges become overlaps, borders dissolve. The quirky beauty of this idea is that even the most distant comet, wandering on a million-year orbit, is still, in some sense, a child of the Sunday. No matter how far it drifts, its path is written in the sun's pull. And when, after eons, it finally sweeps inward and catches your eye as a streak of light, you are witnessing the return of family, an icy traveller reminding you that the solar system is larger than you ever imagined. So tonight, as you lie still and let your thoughts wander, imagine that frozen halo surrounding you. It is out there now, silent, unseen, a shell of ancient ice holding the memory of creation. It is the final veil of the sun's reach, a frontier that is not an end but a soft blending into the galaxy. Beyond it lies interstellar space proper, the vast darkness between stars, where the distances grow almost unbearable. And that is where our journey will drift next, into the long night that stretches between suns. You've drifted past the frozen frontier of the Oort cloud, leaving behind the last icy echoes of the sun's authority. Ahead stretches the great darkness, what seems at first glance like pure emptiness. This is interstellar space, the gulf between stars, where light takes years to cross, and silence is deeper than you can imagine. It would be tempting to think of it as a void, a perfect nothing, but even here the universe refuses to be truly empty. If you could scoop up a box of interstellar space, you would find a few stray atoms, mostly hydrogen, floating in every cubic centimetre. That's fewer than the breath you just exhaled contains by 1 trillion times, and yet stretched across such distances, those atoms add up to vast clouds that shape the galaxy itself. This interstellar medium, as astronomers call it, is like a faint mist permeating the Milky Way. Sometimes it gathers into denser clouds where new stars are born. Sometimes it thins into near vacuums where nothing stirs for light years. Invisible magnetic fields thread through it, guiding particles along unseen lines, while cosmic rays, fragments of atoms hurled from supernovae, zip past at almost the speed of light. Imagine yourself floating here, weightless in the dark. Around you, the nearest star is 4 light-years away, an unreachable distance for now. The sun behind you is fading into anonymity, just another bright point among billions. Yet, in this emptiness, you are not alone. The interstellar medium is like a soft background hum, a whisper of particles brushing against your ship, against your skin in imagination, reminding you that even the spaces between are something. The quirky truth is that if your body were suddenly transported here without protection, you wouldn't exactly explode or freeze instantly, as movies sometimes suggest. Instead, you would suffocate slowly in the absence of air, your warmth leaking away into the void. The danger of interstellar space isn't violent drama. It's gentle, relentless nothingness, a quiet that outlasts everything. And yet, within this quiet, stars are born. The same thin clouds that look like emptiness to your eyes can, over millions of years, collapse under gravity, sparking nuclear fire and lighting up the galaxy with newborn suns. Even the void, it seems, hides potential. As you drift deeper into interstellar space, the silence takes on a texture of its own. There is no wind here, no rustle of leaves, no hum of insects, only the faint hiss of particles colliding after years of separation. It's an emptiness so complete that your ears would invent sounds to fill it, a ringing born from the absence of noise. Astronomers sometimes describe this region as a cosmic desert, but deserts on Earth are lively places buzzing with hidden insects, shifting dunes, occasional bursts of rain. Interstellar space is quieter still. Imagine walking across a desert at night, the sand cold beneath your feet, the stars sprawling above. Multiply that silence 1,000,000-fold, and you have only the faintest taste of what lies between the stars. Yet even here, traces of life and death persist. The interstellar medium is seeded with carbon, oxygen, and heavier elements forged in supernovae ashes of long-dead stars. Dust grains, no larger than smoke particles, float endlessly, catching and scattering light. If you could hold one between your fingers, it would feel like nothing at all, and yet these grains shape the colors of starlight, reddening it as it passes through the haze. The universe paints with dust, and the canvas is the night sky. There are quirks here too. Interstellar clouds sometimes hum with faint radio waves, emissions from atoms flipping their states after billions of years. Astronomers tune into this whisper, mapping invisible shapes across the galaxy. It's as though the void is singing softly, a lullaby too faint for human ears, yet strong enough for machines to catch. And still, debate lingers over just how empty this emptiness is. Some models suggest vast pockets nearly devoid of matter superbubbles, carved by ancient stellar explosions. Others reveal filaments and threads of denser gas, weaving a structure so intricate it resembles a web. Space between stars, it turns out, is not uniform but patterned, like frost forming delicate shapes on a window pane. As you lie here tonight, you might imagine yourself drifting through that frost, cold, beautiful, endless. Each star in the distance a lantern hung far apart, each faint particle around you a reminder that even emptiness is never truly empty. The deeper you travel into this wilderness, the more you realize how much the space between stars shapes the stars themselves. It isn't just a backdrop, it's a participant. Clouds of hydrogen drifting in this interstellar sea collapse under their own gravity, slowly gathering mass until fusion ignites at their hearts. From the quietest emptiness, fire is born. The next generation of stars, in turn, forge heavier elements in their cores, iron, gold, calcium, and scatter them back into the interstellar medium when they die. Each breath you take tonight, each bone in your body, every atom of iron in your blood once drifted between stars, carried in that faint, invisible mist. You are not separate from the void. You are a child of it. Yet from your perspective, lying awake in the small hours, interstellar space feels almost unbearable in its scale. The nearest star system, Proxima Centauri, is more than 4 light-years away. Even at the speed of Voyager, hurtling faster than any human object ever built, it would take over 70,000 years to arrive. To you, 4 light-years might as well be forever. And so, the gulf between stars becomes a kind of cosmic pause. Galaxies are made of stars, but stars are separated by oceans so vast that entire civilizations could rise and fall while a single ship tried to cross them. Infinity hides not only at the edge of the universe, but right here, between the lights you see every night. Scientists still debate the nature of this nothing. Is it mostly calm or threaded with turbulence? Are there hidden waves of magnetic energy shaping it? Instruments give hints, but never the full picture. The truth is, the space between stars is as mysterious as the stars themselves, a shifting medium we are only beginning to chart. And the quirky part? If you could somehow collect all that tenuous gas and dust and squeeze it together, it would form billions of suns. What looks like nothing at all is, in fact, a reservoir of everything waiting, patient, until gravity chooses to gather it. So tonight, as you drift closer to sleep, imagine yourself floating in that endless stillness. The stars above your roof are not just dots of light. They are lanterns separated by oceans, lanterns whose warmth is carried on the breath of an invisible sea. And you, tucked beneath your blankets, are already part of that sea, drifting gently with it through the spiral arms of the Milky Way. Here, between the stars, the idea of emptiness becomes strangely alive. You might expect loneliness, but instead there is a gentle sense of belonging because even this thin medium connects you to everything else. Every atom here has a history. Some were forged in stars that died before Earth was born. Some may drift for billions of years more before finding their way into a new world, or perhaps into the breath of another being somewhere far away. In this sense, the interstellar medium is not a void but a bridge, tying past to future, one star to another. The Milky Way would collapse without it. Galaxies themselves are shaped by the tides of this invisible sea. It carries shockwaves from supernovae, ripples from stellar winds, and magnetic fields stretching across light years. The space between stars is like a cosmic bloodstream, carrying nutrients and memories from one generation of suns to the next. And yet, For all its quiet grandeur, you would never notice it with your own eyes. Look up tonight, and the dark between stars still looks like nothing at all. It takes patience, instruments, and imagination to know it is there. That is perhaps the humbling lesson of interstellar space. The most important things are often invisible, hidden in silence, waiting for you to wonder. The quirky thought is that if you were to drift endlessly here, with no destination, you would see stars slowly shift their positions over thousands of years, constellations melting and reforming like clouds. Even the fixed sky is not fixed. It only looks that way because your lifetime is short. The space between stars is not static but flowing, changing, alive with motion too slow for a single human to grasp. So as you rest tonight, imagine yourself cradled by this vast nothing that is something. You are between stars already, carried by the sun through the galaxy at unimaginable speed, sheltered inside a bubble, wrapped in a cosmic web of particles and dust. The dark between stars is not an ending but a passage, and it is there that our journey continues outward, to the even larger gulfs that stretch not just between suns, but between galaxies themselves. You've floated through the quiet sea between stars, and now, slowly, your gaze widens. The stars, the sun, its neighbours, and the constellations overhead are only a small part of something greater, the Milky Way galaxy. It stretches like a luminous river across the night sky, a band of light you may have seen on especially clear nights, soft and hazy, like powdered silver scattered across black velvet. To ancient eyes it was a path of spirits, a celestial road. To modern astronomers it is a spiral of hundreds of billions of stars, each one a sun in its own right. And you are inside it, deep in one of its quieter suburbs. But even galaxies, vast as they are, have edges. Our Milky Way is not infinite. It is a structure, immense but bounded, fading gradually into darkness. The stars thin out as you move away from the galactic centre. The spiral arms unravel, the gas and dust grow sparse, until, at some point, there are fewer and fewer stars to call the Milky Way at all. Beyond that shoreline lies the intergalactic void. Imagine yourself rising above the disk of the galaxy, looking back from some unimaginable height. The core glows like a crowded city centre, dense with stars, bright and busy. But far from that hub, on the outskirts where we live, the lights grow sparser like houses thinning out into farmland, then wilderness. You are standing at the cosmic countryside, where the galaxy ends not with a wall but with a gentle fade. The quirky thing is that even defining the edge of the Milky Way is tricky. Astronomers debate how far it extends. Some say the stellar disk reaches about 100,000 light-years across. Others argue that faint stars and dark matter halos stretch far farther, perhaps 200,000 light-years or more. It depends, once again, on where you decide to draw the line. And lying here tonight, you realize that your entire life has unfolded not in the heart of the galaxy, but on its outskirts, near the quiet boundary where the familiar fades into the unknown. You live not in the bustling centre, but on the shoreline close enough to feel part of the city, far enough to glimpse the dark sea beyond. Imagine taking a slow walk along a shoreline at night. Behind you, lights from a distant town still glow, scattered windows shining faintly. Ahead, the sand fades into darkness, the ocean stretching silent and infinite. That is what the edge of the Milky Way feels like. You are still within the city of stars, but already you sense the pull of the void beyond. The Milky Way's disk, thin and flat like a cosmic pancake, is about 100,000 light-years across. You live about 2/3 of the way from its centre, in a quiet spiral arm called Orion's Spur, a suburban neighbourhood far from the dazzling, chaotic core. The stars around you are sparse compared to the millions packed near the middle. In a way, your position gives you breathing room. The skies are dark enough for you to wonder about edges at all. But beyond the disk lies a different kind of structure, the stellar halo. Here, scattered stars drift like lanterns forgotten in the dark, orbiting the galaxy in vast, tilted paths. Some are ancient, older than the disk itself, relics from the galaxy's youth. Others may be immigrant stars stolen from smaller galaxies long ago, now circling quietly in the outskirts. If you could float there, the Milky Way would look smaller, like a glowing island shrinking behind you. And surrounding it all, though invisible, is an even stranger boundary, the dark matter halo. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, yet its gravity holds the Milky Way together. Without it, the galaxy's arms would spin apart. Estimates suggest this hidden halo stretches several 100,000 light-years farther than the disk, a ghostly skeleton cradling the stars. If the bright Milky Way is the village, dark matter is the unseen landscape it rests upon. Scientists still debate where to say, this is the edge. Is it where the last faint star orbits, where the dark matter halo gives way to the galaxy beyond? Or is the galaxy more like a cloud, fading so slowly into its surroundings that the boundary is meaningless? As you lie here tonight, you realize the shoreline of the Milky Way is more a mood than a measurement. It is that sense of standing at the last porch light before the forest, listening to the hush of waves that belong not to land but to sea. At the galaxy's edge, stars are few and far between, but they are often among the oldest in existence. Many belong to globular clusters, ancient spherical swarms of stars, orbiting like tiny satellites around the Milky Way. Each cluster contains hundreds of thousands of suns, packed so densely that if you lived on a planet there, the night sky would blaze with starlight, brighter than any city skyline. From your quiet suburb within Orion's arm, those clusters appear as faint smudges, like cotton balls against the black. But out at the galactic shoreline, they are companions, marking the transition from city to wilderness. They remind you that the edge is not empty but peppered with forgotten treasures, relics left hanging on the outskirts. Between these drifting clusters lies mostly darkness. Here, the gas and dust needed to form new stars are scarce, so the outskirts remain quiet, populated by elderly suns nearing the end of their lives. It's a kind of galactic retirement home, where the restless birth of stars has long since faded into stillness. And then there are the galactic streams, faint rivers of stars that arc around the Milky Way, remnants of smaller galaxies that once fell into its gravity and were torn apart. Their paths loop like scars, faintly glowing reminders that the Milky Way is not static, but constantly reshaping itself, absorbing neighbours and scattering their stars into its halo. Scientists still argue about how far these outskirts stretch. Some measurements suggest that our galaxy's influence extends far beyond the visible disk, tugging on nearby dwarf galaxies and guiding their paths. Others propose that the halo blends seamlessly into the intergalactic medium, with no clear boundary at all. The quirky part is that even as we map these regions with telescopes and simulations, we are also part of the shoreline ourselves. From our position in the Orion Arm, the Milky Way looks like it belongs to us. But from outside, from the dark edges, you'd see that we are just one of countless dots in a vast spiral, already fading into the quiet beyond. So tonight, as you drift deeper into rest, imagine yourself standing on that shoreline. Behind you, billions of stars sparkle like a cosmic city. Before you, the void stretches vast and unlit. The Milky Way is your home, but it is also an island, and every island, no matter how large, eventually meets the sea. The farther you travel outward, the smaller the Milky Way appears behind you. First, it looks like a vast spiral, its arms curling gracefully around the glowing centre. But as the distance grows, details fade, and the galaxy shrinks to a single glowing whirl suspended like a lantern in the dark. Keep drifting, and even that lantern dims, until it is only one spark among billions scattered across the cosmic night. This fading is what astronomers call the galactic edge. Not a wall, not a cliff, but a slow dissolving. The disk of stars blurs into the halo thins into the intergalactic medium, and finally, the galaxy simply becomes background. Its identity doesn't vanish all at once, it ebbs away, like the sound of waves receding after they crash on the shore. Here, at the shoreline, the question of belonging lingers. Are you still part of the Milky Way if the stars around you are only faint memories? Or have you already stepped into the wilderness between galaxies, claimed now by the emptiness more than by home? Astronomers themselves offer no single answer. Some mark the edge by the last measurable pull of dark matter, others by the last scattering of stars still orbiting. The truth is, galaxies, like solar systems, do not end. They fade. And the quirky thought is this: even though you live inside this sprawling island of light, you almost never see it whole. From Earth, clouds and city lights often hide the Milky Way's arc. To truly see your home galaxy, you'd have to step into the emptiest places on Earth or imagine yourself drifting above it, looking back with wonder. Most of humanity spends a lifetime inside a galaxy without ever glimpsing it directly. So, as you lie in bed tonight, picture yourself standing on that cosmic beach, toes at the edge where starlight meets dark. Behind you, the Milky Way hums with billions of lives and stories. Ahead, the intergalactic sea stretches silent and endless. And it is there, beyond the shoreline of home, that our journey will drift next into the vast desert between galaxies, where the distances grow so wide that even imagination strains to follow. You've left the shoreline of the Milky Way behind. The spiral arms that once wrapped around you have faded into a single swirl of light, now shrinking into the distance. Ahead lies something far larger and far lonelier, the cosmic desert, the gulfs between galaxies. The scale is staggering. Within the Milky Way, distances between stars can already take light years to cross. But between galaxies, the numbers swell into millions of light years. Imagine standing on a beach at night. Behind you glows the city of the Milky Way. Ahead is an ocean so vast that the nearest island is so faint you see it only as a blur on the horizon. That island is the Andromeda Galaxy, our nearest large neighbour, over 2 million light-years away. If you could drift there, the journey would outlast civilizations. Even at the speed of Voyager, humanity's fastest emissary, it would take trillions of years to cross the gulf. Light itself, the swiftest traveller in the universe, needs more than 2 million years to bridge the gap. These are not just distances, they are abysses, empty plains of darkness stretching farther than your mind can hold. And yet, this desert is not truly empty. Like the space between stars, it holds a faint scattering of matter, thin gas, stray atoms, the occasional lonely star flung out during galactic collisions. Astronomers call this the intergalactic medium, a whisper of substance so sparse it would be nearly impossible to notice, yet across such distances, it shapes the fate of galaxies. To you, lying quietly in the dark, these gulfs feel almost mythic. The nearest galaxies shimmer faintly as smudges in the night sky, yet the space between them is so large it could swallow thousands of Milky Ways whole. It is a silence that makes even your galaxy seem fragile, like a single lamp flickering in endless night. And the quirky twist? Despite their vast separation, galaxies are not entirely isolated. Gravity binds them in slow, inevitable dances. The Milky Way and Andromeda, though separated by millions of light-years, are already on a collision course, drawn together by attraction across the desert. The cosmic void is wide, but it is not strong enough to keep them apart forever. As you drift farther into the intergalactic night, the emptiness deepens. Behind you, the Milky Way glows faintly, a city of stars shrinking into memory. Ahead, Andromeda waits like a pale lantern, its spiral arms blurred by distance. Between the two lies a stretch of space so wide, so silent, that for long stretches you might not meet a single star. But emptiness does not mean nothing. Occasionally, lone stars wander these gulfs, so-called intergalactic stars, flung outward by gravitational encounters, doomed to travel alone forever. Imagine being a traveller from such a star, looking around and seeing no home galaxy, only darkness in every direction. Your night sky would be stripped bare, with only a few faint smudges of distant galaxies to break the silence. There are also rogue planets, worlds untethered to any star, drifting cold and lightless through the desert. Some may carry atmospheres, oceans locked beneath ice, even the possibility of life surviving in hidden warmth. They are like lost boats on a black ocean, invisible except to the rare telescopes sensitive enough to catch their faint heat. And then there are the galaxy groups and clusters oases in the desert, where dozens or hundreds of galaxies huddle together. Our Milky Way and Andromeda belong to such a group, the local group, a small gathering adrift in the void. Beyond it lie clusters far larger, like Virgo, where thousands of galaxies crowd together in a cosmic metropolis. Between these islands, however, the darkness stretches wide, a true desert that dwarfs even your most ambitious imagination. Scientists still argue about the structure of this desert. Some maps suggest that galaxies are not scattered randomly, but arranged along filaments, like dew on a spider's web, with great voids yawning in between. Others debate how much unseen dark matter threads through the gulfs, shaping the pull of galaxies even when no light betrays its presence. For you, though, lying in your quiet room, these gulfs are less a scientific puzzle and more a dreamscape. They are the silent stretches of night between constellations, the pauses between heartbeats, the blank spaces on a page that make the words more meaningful. The cosmic desert is not just absence, it is the frame that makes the galaxies shine. The further you drift into the cosmic desert, the more you realize how strange its emptiness is. On Earth, deserts feel vast because they are dry, quiet, and lifeless to human senses. But even in the Sahara, grains of sand surround you, winds move across dunes, life hides in the shadows. The intergalactic void is far more severe. 1,000,000 cubic kilometers of this space might hold only a handful of atoms. It is not just empty compared to Earth, it is empty compared to emptiness itself. And yet, this near-nothingness plays a vital role. Without these deserts, galaxies would not stand out. Imagine a night sky with no dark between stars, only endless light, blending everything together. It would be blinding, impossible to find shapes, stories, or constellations. Darkness gives form to light, and the gulfs between galaxies give meaning to their islands of stars. Here, too, time stretches differently in your imagination. A single photon of light leaving the Milky Way will travel millions of years before it brushes against another galaxy. Whole epochs pass in its journey. Civilizations may rise and fall, languages may appear and vanish, while a single beam of starlight drifts patiently across the void. The quirky part is that galaxies, though separated by such distances, are still destined to meet. Gravity works slowly but surely, like an invisible tether that no desert can sever. The Milky Way and Andromeda are already falling toward each other, and in 4 billion years they will collide. When that happens, stars will whirl together in slow, graceful arcs, like two dancers meeting in a ballroom so vast that the floor itself seems endless. Most stars will pass by without touching, for even in galaxies, space is mostly space. But the shapes will change, spirals merging into something new, and the cosmic desert will bear witness, patient as ever. For now, though, the gulfs remain. As you lie here tonight, you can imagine yourself floating in that stillness. The Milky Way, a lantern behind you, Andromeda faint ahead, and in between a silence so wide that it feels more like eternity than distance. Out here, in the wilderness between galaxies, you begin to feel the true weight of distance. Not the kind you measure in miles or even light years, but the kind that hums in your chest when you realize just how far, far can be. You are adrift in a silence where the nearest landmark is millions of years away, and yet the emptiness feels oddly peaceful, like lying awake in the deep hours of night when the world itself seems to pause. Astronomers call these gulfs voids, vast regions where galaxies are few and far between. Some are so large that, if the Milky Way sat at one edge, you could fit hundreds of galaxies inside and still not reach the far side. These cosmic voids form part of a larger pattern, a web of matter stretched across the universe, galaxies clumped along filaments, with deserts yawning in between. It is as if the cosmos is woven like lace threads of light against vast, deliberate holes. And the quirky truth is that even nothingness has structure. The gas in these voids is so thin you would never notice it, yet it may hold keys to cosmic mysteries. Some theories suggest that the universe's missing matter, the elusive dark baryons, could be hiding in these gulfs, too diffuse to shine, but still shaping the fate of galaxies. The desert is not barren, it is simply subtle. Standing at the edge of such an abyss, you realize that what feels like an ending is really a connection. The gulfs are the spaces between notes, the silence that lets the symphony breathe. Without them, galaxies would not be separate, stars would not shine as islands, and you would not have the luxury of asking whether space ends at all. So tonight, as your eyes grow heavy, imagine yourself floating in that desert. The Milky Way glows softly behind you, Andromeda faint ahead, and all around, the hush of distance, wide and unbroken. This is not loneliness, it is spaciousness, a cosmic exhale. And beyond this desert lies something even larger, the great web of the universe itself, where galaxies stitch together in patterns too vast for the eye, but not too vast for your dreams. Leaving the wide desert between galaxies, you begin to notice something unexpected. The universe, seen at its grandest scale, is not random. Galaxies do not scatter like pebbles tossed across a floor. Instead, they arrange themselves into patterns, threads, filaments, walls woven together like lace stretched across the dark. This is the cosmic web, the largest structure we know, and you are floating inside it. From Earth, the night sky looks scattered and free. A star here, a cluster there, the Milky Way stretched like a band of spilled milk. But when astronomers mapped millions of galaxies with powerful telescopes, a new picture emerged. Galaxies cluster along vast filaments, strings of light hundreds of millions of light years long. Between these filaments yawn giant voids, cosmic deserts even larger than the ones you've already drifted through. Imagine zooming out so far that whole galaxies shrink to pinpricks. From that perspective, they are beads on threads, connected across gulfs of black. The web has no sharp edges, no walls, no tidy borders. It is all transition-dense filaments fading into thinner strands, then dissolving into the openness of voids. It looks almost organic, like neurons in a brain or roots in a forest, as though the universe itself were alive with hidden symmetry. Scientists still puzzle over how such a structure formed. They believe it began with tiny ripples in the energy of the newborn universe, amplified over billions of years by gravity and dark matter. Where the invisible scaffolding of dark matter pulled hardest, galaxies collected, lighting up the threads like dew on spider silk. And lying here tonight, you realize how comforting it is to think of the universe not as chaos, but as connection. Even across billions of light years, galaxies are not alone. They are bound in patterns, neighbors along filaments, voices in a choir too vast for one ear to hear. Imagine yourself gliding along one of these filaments, a strand of the cosmic web stretching farther than you can see. On either side, galaxies glimmer like beads of light, each containing billions of stars, each star perhaps hosting worlds of its own. The distances between them are immense, yet compared to the voids you've crossed, this filament feels almost crowded, like a road lined with lanterns in the night. If you were to leave the filament and drift into a void, the lights would fade quickly, until only faint smudges remained. But here, along the web, there is a sense of direction, of belonging. It is as though the universe has drawn invisible highways, guiding galaxies into patterns too vast for the eye, yet strangely familiar to the mind. The quirky part is that this grand structure resembles things you already know. Microscopes reveal neurons in the human brain, branching in patterns almost identical to cosmic filaments. The mycelium networks beneath forests, the hidden roots, and fungi that connect trees also mirror the same shapes. It is as if nature, from the smallest scale to the largest, prefers threads over chaos, webs over randomness. Scientists still debate what this resemblance means. Is it coincidence, or is there a deeper principle guiding the way matter arranges itself? Could it be that the same mathematics that governs neurons and forests also governs galaxies? No one is sure. But the thought itself is soothing, that you are part of a universe woven with repetition, echoes of pattern linking your mind to the stars. And yet, despite this order, the web has no boundaries. Threads fade into threads, filaments into knots, knots into clusters. There is no last strand to hold, no final wall to mark an end. The cosmic web is both finite in its structures and infinite in its reach, dissolving into mystery no matter how far you travel. So tonight, as you rest beneath your blankets, imagine yourself walking one of these cosmic bridges, lanterns of galaxies on either side, the dark void yawning beneath. You are not lost. You are on a path one drawn not by hand but by gravity itself, a path that stretches beyond imagination. The longer you drift along these filaments, the more they begin to feel less like structures of matter and more like pathways of thought. Each galaxy glows like a lantern suspended in the dark, and when you step back far enough, they form delicate strands crossing and weaving, a latticework too intricate to be accidental. It feels less like you are looking at the universe, and more like the universe is looking back, its mind revealed in glowing lines of stars. Some astronomers call the densest knots of this web superclusters, regions where hundreds or even thousands of galaxies gather in colossal gatherings. Between them, filaments stretch like bridges, spanning tens of millions of light years. To move across one bridge is to cross an ocean of emptiness, yet the pattern always continues, a thread leading to another knot, another gathering, another song of light. And in the quiet of your imagination, you notice something strangely familiar. The branching reminds you of veins beneath skin, of rivers winding across continents, of lightning splitting the night sky. Nature seems to favor this rhythm, not walls or boxes, but flowing lines, networks that connect rather than confine. The cosmos, it seems, is not a fortress with borders, but a forest of threads, each one alive with possibility. Still, no one can say exactly where these threads end. Some fade into voids too empty to sustain them, others curve gently into neighboring structures, blurring the line between one supercluster and the next. There is no final edge to the web, only a soft dissolving into silence, as though the universe itself prefers to leave its borders unfinished. As you lie in bed tonight, you might picture yourself resting on one of these bridges of galaxies. Beneath you, the void stretches black and endless. Around you, lanterns of starlight mark the way, countless suns, each with their own stories. And above all, a sense of connection lingers, the feeling that even across billions of light years, nothing truly stands alone. If you could step even farther back, beyond the scale of superclusters, the entire cosmic web would begin to emerge like a tapestry. Great rivers of galaxies lace the darkness, bending and stretching until they blur into a pattern almost too large to comprehend. Between them, voids open like vast lakes of night, silent and patient, their emptiness giving contrast to the brilliance of the threads. This is the universe at its grandest scale, a design without borders. The filaments don't end with sharp lines. They thin, they scatter, they fade, until suddenly you are no longer sure if you are still within the web or floating outside of it. And perhaps that uncertainty is the truth itself, that the cosmos doesn't draw boundaries the way your mind wishes it would. It prefers gradients, transitions, whispers instead of walls. Astronomers map these structures with surveys that span decades, using the light of millions of galaxies as dots in a vast 3D chart. When the maps are complete, the picture resembles something hauntingly familiar, a neural network, a living brain glowing with sparks of thought. Some call it coincidence. Others wonder if the resemblance hints at a universal rhythm, a way matter arranges itself from the smallest to the largest scales. Whether in the firing of a neuron or the clustering of galaxies, the universe may be telling a single story in different voices. And here you are, a listener in the quiet, drifting among those voices. The galaxies are impossibly far, their light older than humanity itself, yet through their arrangement you feel something close, almost intimate, connection. The web does not separate but unites, tying stars to galaxies, galaxies to clusters, clusters to the whole. As your thoughts slow tonight, you might imagine yourself resting in the middle of that vast net, every thread humming faintly with starlight. You are suspended in a web without edges, a design that stretches beyond sight, beyond measure, beyond certainty. And somewhere in that design, gently glowing, is your own galaxy, a single bead on a string, part of a cosmic pattern that never truly ends. By now, you've drifted across scales so immense that galaxies themselves seem like lanterns along a thread. And yet, even as you travel farther and farther outward, there is still a final boundary to what you can see, a horizon not of matter, but of light itself. This is the observable universe, the built-in limit of your cosmic view. The reason is simple but profound. Light takes time to travel. When you look at the moon, you see it as it was a little more than a second ago. The sun appears as it was 8 minutes ago. The nearest star? Over 4 years in the past. Every glance into the night sky is a glance backward in time. Keep looking farther, and you see galaxies not as they are, but as they were millions or billions of years ago. Eventually, you reach a point where light has been travelling for as long as the universe has existed, around 13.8 billion years. Beyond that, no light has had enough time to reach you. The cosmos may well continue, but it is hidden, forever beyond your sight. Astronomers call this boundary the cosmic horizon, or sometimes the edge of the observable universe. It is not an edge in the physical sense, no wall, no barrier, but a limit set by time itself. The universe is larger than you can see, perhaps infinitely larger, but your window is bound by how far light has travelled since the beginning. If you could step back and see this horizon around you, it would look like a sphere centred on Earth. Not because Earth is special, but because wherever you stand in the cosmos, you are at the center of your own observable bubble. Every observer, on every world, looks outward and sees a different sphere, bounded not by space but by history. And lying here tonight, you realize how humbling that is. The universe is not only vast but also layered with time. You are always looking into the past, never the present. The stars overhead are messengers from ages long gone, their light carrying whispers across the darkness to reach your eyes in this single quiet moment. Picture the observable universe as a bubble of sight, about 46 billion light-years in radius. That number might surprise you after all. If the universe is only 13.8 billion years old, shouldn't the horizon be 13.8 billion light-years away? The answer lies in expansion. While the light was on its journey toward you, space itself stretched, carrying distant galaxies farther outward. The photons still arrived, but the sources that sent them are now much farther away than when their light began its trip. It's as though you were standing on a beach, watching a lantern drift away on the tide. The light it sends takes minutes to reach you, and by the time it does, the lantern is no longer where it was. It has drifted far into the distance. The night sky is filled with such lanterns, galaxies whose light left them eons ago, galaxies that are now impossibly far away. But beyond this bubble of light, there may be much more regions of the cosmos forever hidden. No telescope, no matter how clever, can show you what lies outside. It isn't a matter of technology, but of physics. The speed of light is a universal speed limit, and the horizon it creates is absolute. For astronomers, this boundary is both a frustration and a gift. It is frustrating because it hides so much from view, perhaps infinitely more universe than we can ever know. And it is a gift because it gives us a natural laboratory. By looking out, we also look back, peering into earlier and earlier chapters of cosmic history. At the farthest edge of sight lies the faint afterglow of the Big Bang itself, the cosmic microwave background, a whisper of radiation left over from the universe's fiery birth. For you, lying in the quiet of your room, this horizon is less a scientific puzzle and more a gentle reminder. Just as your eyes can only see so far in a fog, your place in the cosmos also comes with limits. And within those limits, you still find endless wonder, galaxies, stars, and stories enough to fill a lifetime of nights. At the very edge of your observable bubble lies one of the most delicate signals in all of science, the cosmic microwave background. It is not a cluster of stars or a glowing wall of galaxies, but a faint bath of radiation, stretched thin and cold over nearly 14 billion years of travel. To sensitive instruments, it glows evenly across the sky, like the afterglow of a long-extinguished fire. This light comes from a time when the universe was only a few 100,000 years old, an infant compared to its age today. Back then, the cosmos was a hot fog of particles and light tangled together. As the universe expanded and cooled, that fog cleared, and photons were finally free to travel. Those same photons are still arriving now, brushing your skin softly in every moment, though your senses cannot feel them. If you could see this ancient light with your eyes, the night sky would shimmer not only with stars, but with a faint, uniform glow wrapping you from every direction. It would be like standing inside a softly lit dome, the ceiling painted with the memory of creation itself. Astronomers have mapped tiny ripples in this background glow, variations as subtle as 1 part in 100,000. These ripples are important. They are the seeds of structure, the faint imbalances that gravity later amplified into galaxies, clusters, and the very cosmic web you just drifted through. The universe you see today, the stars, the Milky Way, even the atoms in your body were all whispered into being by those small fluctuations in the early light. And yet, beyond this ancient glow, your sight fails. You cannot look farther back because there is nothing left to see, only the fog before light was free. The observable horizon ends there, not with a cliff, but with a curtain drawn by time itself. What lies beyond that curtain remains unknowable, a story that the universe keeps to itself. As you lie here tonight, half awake, you might imagine that horizon as a gentle veil stretched around you. It is not a wall to trap you, but a reminder. Even infinite curiosity must accept a boundary. And perhaps that is part of the beauty that the cosmos still keeps secrets, waiting patiently, just out of reach. The more you think about this horizon, the more it feels like standing on a balcony at night, looking out across an endless valley shrouded in mist. You know the landscape continues beyond what you see, but the fog hides its details. The observable universe is that balcony view, breathtaking, immense, but always softened by the limits of light and time. Scientists often remind themselves that this horizon is personal. From Earth, it is a sphere 46 billion light-years in radius. But if you stood on a planet orbiting a star in another galaxy, the horizon would still be 46 billion light-years, only centered there instead. Each observer is at the center of their own bubble, stitched together by the reach of light. There is no single cosmic center, only countless perspectives, each wrapped in its own horizon. This idea carries a quiet poetry. Every world is both limited and infinite, limited in what it can see, infinite in what may lie beyond. The galaxies visible to you tonight are only a fraction of what exists, yet they are enough to fill the mind with wonder. And perhaps that balance between knowing and not knowing is what makes the night sky so calming. The horizon also raises a gentle debate. Is it possible that the universe beyond what you can see is different from the one you know? Could there be regions with physics unlike our own, hidden forever behind the curtain of light, or is the cosmos uniform, repeating its structures endlessly? The truth remains out of reach, yet the questions themselves are soothing, like lullabies for the restless mind. As your eyes grow heavy, you might imagine yourself standing at that horizon now, looking back. Behind you, all of history, every galaxy, every star you have ever known, glowing softly inside the bubble. Ahead of you, silence, mystery, and the unlit pages of a story still untold. And so the observable universe is not a prison, but a reminder. You are part of something larger than you can see, larger than you can measure. And the fact that there is always more beyond the horizon ensures that wonder never runs out. You've reached the edge of the observable universe, the veil beyond which light itself cannot return, and yet you know in your heart that the cosmos does not stop there. The horizon is not an ending, only the limit of your vision. Beyond it lies a mystery that no telescope, no spacecraft, no clever trick of science will ever reveal directly. Imagine standing on a shoreline at night. The sea stretches away into darkness, and though you cannot see beyond the horizon, you know the water continues. Waves break out there, unseen. Tides shift and pull. Storms rage and calm. Whether or not your eyes can witness them, the universe is the same. The cosmic sea rolls on past your horizon, carrying galaxies and stars you will never know. What might those unseen regions look like? Some scientists believe they resemble the part of the universe you can see more galaxies, more clusters, more threads of the cosmic web extending outward without end. Others wonder if conditions could shift subtly, if the physics itself might vary beyond your reach. Perhaps the constants you take for granted, gravity, light, time, play by slightly different rules elsewhere. Or perhaps there are regions where galaxies never formed at all, silent expanses of darkness stretching endlessly. The truth is unknowable, hidden forever by the barrier of light and time. And yet, the not knowing is strangely comforting. It means the universe still holds secrets, treasures tucked away where no one can touch them. In a world where you are urged to measure, map, and define everything, here is a realm that resists all definitions, a place left for wonder alone. As you lie here tonight, you might picture yourself standing at that cosmic horizon, toes at the edge of sight. Behind you, the glowing history of stars. Ahead, the soft dark of forever. You cannot step across, but you can imagine, and in that imagining, you are already there, floating beyond the horizon, into mystery. Beyond the horizon, the galaxies are slipping away faster than light can carry their news back to you. Not because they are moving through space, but because space itself is stretching, pulling them outward like beads on an expanding fabric. Every second, more of the cosmos vanishes behind that unreachable curtain. It is as though you are watching a play in which new scenes are forever unfolding backstage, but you will never be invited to see them. Scientists call these unreachable places the unobservable universe. They are real, every bit as real as the stars above you tonight, but forever locked away. Their light will never arrive. No future telescope will reveal them. No voyage will cross that gap. The expansion of space is too relentless. And yet, that doesn't stop the mind from wandering there. Some cosmologists imagine an endless continuation of the cosmic web. More filaments, more clusters, more voids, repeating patterns stretching out without limit. Others suggest stranger possibilities. If the laws of physics can differ beyond our horizon, then somewhere out there might be galaxies where chemistry unfolds differently, where stars burn in unfamiliar colours, where matter arranges itself in ways your mind can barely picture. The thought can be dizzying. Infinity is not just distance, it is variation, possibility, an endless playground for imagination. To know that such realms exist, even if you will never see them, is like hearing a song drifting faintly from beyond a closed door. You cannot open it, but the melody is enough to remind you that mystery is alive. And lying in the dark tonight, that mystery feels less frightening than soothing. You don't need to hold the whole universe in your hands. It is enough to know that beyond your horizon, the story continues, always larger than your view, always stretching into forever. Think of the horizon not as a barrier, but as a mirror of your own life. Every person carries horizons, limits of sight, of memory, of imagination. You cannot see tomorrow, but you know it is coming. You cannot revisit the past, yet you carry its traces. In the same way, the cosmic horizon is a reminder that even the universe has boundaries of perspective. Beyond them lies something real, but hidden, waiting in silence. Astronomers sometimes describe this hidden realm as a cosmic elsewhere. It is a poetic phrase, because it suggests that those distant galaxies still exist right now in their own present, even if their light can never touch you. Somewhere, beyond your horizon, stars are forming, planets are turning, comets are gliding along their paths, all unseen but no less real. Entire stories are unfolding in that elsewhere, stories you will never read, but which still belong to the same universe as you. The mystery deepens when you realize how much of the cosmos is already lost to you. Because of expansion, most galaxies you see tonight are already too far for their light ever to reach you again. You are glimpsing their pasts, but their futures are sealed beyond your sight. It is like watching lanterns drifting down a river, knowing that once they pass the bend, they will be gone forever, carrying their light away into the dark. And still, that thought is not sad, it is strangely calming. The universe has always been larger than your reach. Even here on Earth, you accept that there are places you may never visit, lives you will never live, mysteries you will never solve. The cosmos simply reflects this truth on the grandest possible scale. As you drift towards sleep, you might imagine yourself standing on the edge of that horizon, looking outward. Behind you, a glowing sphere filled with all you have ever known. Before you, an ocean of silence, wide and unknowable, and in that silence lies comfort, the assurance that the universe will always have more to give than you can ever take. Beyond the horizon, your imagination is free to wander. Perhaps there are endless galaxies repeating the same familiar shapes, spirals, clusters, webs stretching outward without limit. Or perhaps, at some distance, the fabric of reality itself begins to shift, and new rules of physics write stranger stories. You will never know, and that unknowing is its own kind of peace. Some scientists speak of the multiverse, countless universes, each with its own horizon, each forever out of reach of the others. If such a vast ensemble exists, then your own observable cosmos is just one page in an infinite library. You can only ever read the chapter you are given, but you can still wonder about the shelves beyond sight. Others keep their focus closer, suggesting that even if you cannot see beyond the horizon, you can still feel its presence. The shape of the observable universe, the ripples in the cosmic background, the way galaxies drift apart, all of these whisper hints about what lies unseen. The hidden regions may remain invisible, but their gravity tugs on the stage you can see, like music drifting faintly through a closed door. And as you lie in bed, eyes half closed, you realize that the horizon does not diminish the cosmos, it enlarges it. It promises that mystery is always alive, that no matter how much you learn, there will always be more. The unknown stretches outward like an endless lullaby, one that will never run out of verses. So tonight, as sleep begins to gather around you, imagine yourself standing quietly at the universe's horizon. Behind you glows the history of everything you know. Ahead lies the forever unseen. You cannot cross, but you do not need to. The beauty is in knowing the story continues, even when you are not watching. You've stood at the horizon of the observable universe, gazing outward into mystery. But the story of what lies beyond doesn't end there. To truly imagine the unseen, you have to travel back, not forward, to the very first fraction of a second after the Big Bang, when the universe was unimaginably young and restless. Cosmologists believe that in that instant, space itself underwent a burst of expansion so sudden, so violent, that it reshaped everything. They call it inflation, a moment when the cosmos ballooned faster than light, stretching tiny quantum ripples into patterns that still echo across the sky today. Without that inflationary moment, the universe would not look the way it does. The smoothness of the cosmic background, the seeds of galaxies, the very structure of the cosmic web all trace back to that primordial breath. But inflation carries with it a profound implication. If space can expand that way once, why not again? Some theories suggest that inflation never ended completely. Instead, it continues in faraway regions, creating pocket universes, the bubbles of reality, each with its own laws, each forever separated from the others by inflating space. This is the idea of the multiverse, a tapestry not of one cosmos, but of countless. Imagine standing in a field of soap bubbles, each one shimmering with its own colours, its own reflections. You live inside one bubble, your observable universe. Beyond its thin walls, more bubbles drift, some larger, some smaller, some perhaps governed by rules you would not recognise. To you, they are invisible, forever out of sight. And yet, the mathematics of inflation whispers that they might be there, a grander cosmos stitched from infinite threads. As you lie here tonight, the thought is both dizzying and gentle. You do not need to solve the multiverse, you only need to picture it. Endless bubbles expanding in silence, a tapestry without edges. Your own universe is just one patch in that infinite quilt, glowing softly among others, all drifting in a sea that no one can chart. In the stillness of your imagination, picture yourself floating among those cosmic bubbles. Each one is vast beyond comprehension, containing galaxies, stars, and perhaps beings wandering about horizons just as you are. Yet no bubble can touch another. The space between them swells faster than light can cross, sealing each universe into its own solitude. Some physicists call this the eternal inflation model. In this vision, new universes are born endlessly, budding like blossoms on an infinite tree. While your own bubble cooled and settled into galaxies and stars, other bubbles were forming elsewhere, each beginning its own story. Some may look much like yours, with familiar physics and scattered spirals of galaxies. Others might be stranger worlds where atoms never clump, or where gravity is too weak to form suns, leaving eternal darkness. You will never see them, never cross to them, never know them directly, and yet their possibility expands your sense of reality. It means the cosmos may not be one single stage, but an endless theatre, with countless plays unfolding at once. From a scientific view, the evidence for this tapestry is subtle. The uniform glow of the cosmic background, the distribution of galaxies, the way expansion behaves. These are like faint fingerprints left by inflation's early rush. But from a dreamer's view, your view, tonight in the quiet, the evidence is less important than the wonder it invites. Because in this vision, your universe is not lonely. It is one bubble in an endless froth, one note in an infinite symphony. And though you may never hear the other notes, you can sense the harmony in the silence, the possibility that existence itself is more generous than you can measure. So, as you let your breathing slow, imagine drifting gently within your own cosmic bubble, its walls stretching farther every moment. Beyond it, countless others float unseen. You are not at the centre, not the edge, but part of a pattern without boundaries, an infinite tapestry woven by expansion itself. The idea of an infinite tapestry can be overwhelming, but if you lean into it gently, it becomes soothing, like watching waves roll across an endless sea. Each crest is unique, but together they form a rhythm without beginning or end. In the same way, each universe may hold its own character, its own physics, yet all of them are threads in a fabric that stretches forever. Some scientists wonder if these other universes might sometimes brush against ours, leaving faint scars, tiny imprints in the cosmic microwave background, patterns we might one day recognize. Others suggest they are sealed off forever, separated not by distance but by expanding space itself, a gulf no bridge could ever cross. The truth is uncertain, and perhaps always will be, but uncertainty here is not a flaw, it is a lullaby, reminding you that mystery is alive. Think of yourself as a dreamer inside one bubble. Your sky is filled with galaxies, stars, and questions. But beyond that sky, in realms you cannot reach, other dreamers may be looking up too. Perhaps they ask the same questions in different languages, or perhaps their physics gives them skies with no stars at all. You will never meet, yet you are bound by wonder, siblings scattered across infinity. And in a quieter sense, the multiverse is already reflected in you. Your mind holds countless possibilities, paths you could walk, choices you could make, lives you will never live. Each one is like a bubble of its own, expanding for a moment before fading. You carry a miniature tapestry inside yourself, threads of memory and imagination, weaving patterns that no one else will see. As you lie still tonight, you can imagine the multiverse not as a cold abstraction, but as a comforting thought, that existence is never exhausted. There is always more stories, more worlds, more possibilities stretching far beyond the walls of your own horizon. And just as sleep carries you into dreams you cannot control, the universe carries itself into infinities you cannot chart. If you could step outside your bubble universe, the sight might leave you breathless. Imagine an ocean of bubbles stretching into the dark, each glowing faintly with its own creation. Some are vast and long-lived, filled with galaxies like yours. Others wink out quickly, collapsing before stars or life ever had a chance to form. It is not a tidy picture, but a restless one, a froth of reality constantly unfolding. In this vision, there is no final boundary. Inflation, once sparked, continues endlessly, giving birth to new pockets of space-time. Somewhere, right now, another universe may be taking shape, expanding faster than light, filling itself with possibilities you will never see. It is an eternal blossoming, a garden of infinities where your cosmos is only one flower among countless blooms. For scientists, this raises debates that may never be settled. Some argue the multiverse is inevitable, written into the equations of inflation. Others doubt, pointing out that what can never be observed may never truly belong to science. Yet the idea persists, because it speaks to something deeper, the sense that reality is always larger than what fits in your view. For you, lying quietly beneath your own ceiling of stars, the multiverse is less about proof and more about comfort. If this universe feels vast beyond measure, then imagine how much more generous existence might be if it holds many. Perhaps infinity itself is not empty, but rich, filled with variations and wonders, endless chapters beyond your page. And as your eyes grow heavy, you might imagine yourself as a single thread in that infinite fabric, small, delicate, but part of a design too wide to fail. The inflationary tapestry hums on, weaving new universes even as you drift towards sleep. And beyond it, perhaps, lies more still layers of reality, waiting like dreams beyond dreams, softly unfolding forever. When you think of infinity, the mind often paints it as a long line that never stops, or a horizon that keeps pulling away as you walk toward it. But infinity is not distance alone, it is the absence of finality. It is not just a road without a finish line, but a road that was never meant to finish at all. Mathematicians wrestle with this by inventing symbols and paradoxes. One example is the famous Hilbert's Hotel, an imaginary inn with infinitely many rooms, all occupied, yet still able to make space for new guests simply by shifting everyone one room farther down. The paradox is playful, but it reveals something profound. Infinity does not behave the way ordinary numbers do. It cannot be contained, only glimpsed. And if space is infinite, it shares this same strangeness. The idea of an edge becomes meaningless. Where would such a boundary stand? If you reached it, what would be beyond? Another kind of nothing? Or something else entirely? The very act of asking shows how our language strains to fit shapes that may not exist. Some philosophers argue that the notion of end only exists in human time. You experience beginnings and endings constantly, the end of a day, of a season, of a breath. Without them, life would feel shapeless, but the universe does not seem to operate in chapters. It expands, evolves, transforms, but never truly halts. What you call an end may only be a change of form, like ice melting into water, or water into vapor. So perhaps infinity is not a number to measure or a puzzle to solve, but a gentle reminder. It tells you that there is always more beyond the horizon of your sight, more beyond the span of your lifetime, more than you can ever hold. That more can feel frightening, but it can also be freeing. You do not have to reach the end. You can rest in the middle, content with the knowledge that the story does not stop just because you cannot turn every page. As you let your thoughts drift tonight, imagine infinity not as a demand for answers, but as a soft expanse like lying in a field at dusk, the sky above you stretching without borders, its edges dissolving into night. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine walking to the edge of the earth, not the round planet you know, but the flat world once imagined by ancient minds. For them, the ocean was the border, and beyond it lay a great unknown. That horizon was their end. And yet, as voyagers revealed, the earth had no edge at all, only curves folding endlessly into themselves. What seemed like an ending was really just another path, waiting to be discovered. Perhaps the universe is much the same. Every time humanity has drawn a line, this is the limit, this is the wall, the cosmos has gently extended the canvas. The edge of the solar system proved porous, the edge of the galaxy dissolved into halos, the horizon of the observable universe revealed more questions than answers. Endings turn out to be beginnings, wearing disguises. Infinity unsettles you because it denies closure, but it also comforts you because it denies final loss. If there is no edge, then there is always more stars, more galaxies, more horizons to chase. And if the cosmos does not end, then perhaps your place within it is never truly lost but folded into its ongoing story. Philosophers sometimes call this the paradox of the infinite. You cannot grasp it fully, yet you can sense it. You cannot measure it, yet you can feel its presence in the night sky, in the way starlight stretches endlessly above your roof. Infinity is not something you solve, it is something you rest within. And as you breathe slowly now, imagine standing at the rim of what you think is an edge. The stars thin out, the silence deepens, and you brace yourself for a wall. But when you step forward, there is no wall at all, only more space, more time, more mystery. The edge, once feared, dissolves into openness, as gentle as a horizon blending into the sky. Perhaps the most gentle truth is this: the universe may never give you a final answer about endings, because the question itself may not fit its nature. An end is a human idea, born from books with closing chapters, candles that burn down, lives that reach their last breath. But the cosmos seems to resist that neatness. It stretches instead, fading and transforming, dissolving borders as soon as you try to draw them. Some thinkers have suggested that infinity is not something you travel to, but something you are already inside. Every horizon you chase simply expands with you, like walking in a dream where the landscape keeps unfolding. The question of whether space ends might be like asking whether a circle has a corner. It is the wrong shape for the answer you expect. Yet there is comfort here. If endings blur into continuations, then you are never truly standing at a precipice. You are always within the flow, carried by a cosmos that has no final page to close. Even death, which feels like the sharpest edge of all, may be part of this same pattern. An ending from one view, a transformation from another. As you let your body sink deeper into rest, imagine yourself floating at the edge of everything. It looks dark, quiet, conclusive. But then your vision adjusts, and you see it is not an edge at all, only another field opening beyond, wider and quieter than before. The universe offers no walls, only invitations to keep drifting. And so the question, does end even exist, may not need an answer. It may be enough to sit with it, to feel the peace of not knowing, to let the mystery cradle you the way space cradles the stars. Infinity, after all, is not a problem to solve. It is a lullaby, and tonight it is singing you to sleep. All along this journey, you've followed questions outward, past planets and comets, through the sun's protective bubble, across interstellar seas, to the shoreline of the Milky Way, into deserts between galaxies, and beyond the horizon of the observable, and at every turn, the edges have dissolved. What once felt like borders became gradients. What once looked like endings became openings. Now, you stand in the most expansive view of all, gazing into infinity itself. And here comes the most intimate question of the night. Where do you belong in all this? What is your place in a universe without walls? It's easy to feel small when the numbers stack up. Stars counted in the billions, galaxies in the trillions, distances in light years beyond imagining. Compared to such scales, your life, your very breath tonight can seem like the faintest flicker. And yet, perspective can be gentle too. Small does not mean insignificant. A single note is small compared to a symphony, but without it, the song would be incomplete. You are part of the universe's fabric, stitched from the same atoms forged in ancient stars. The iron in your blood was born in stellar cores, the calcium in your bones in supernovae, the oxygen you breathe in the quiet of this room released by generations of suns. You are not outside the cosmos, peering in. You are inside it, made of it, and inseparable from its story. Infinity, then, is not something you stand against. It is something you carry within you. Every thought, every memory, every dream is a tiny reflection of the cosmos's boundlessness. Just as galaxies spread across the sky without borders, your own inner life stretches farther than any map can chart. And so, as you lie in bed tonight, listening to the hush of your own breathing, remember this: your place in infinity is not at the edge, not at the center, but within the flow itself. You are one with the universe's unfolding, a fleeting but essential part of a story that never ends. When you imagine infinity, the first feeling might be overwhelm. How can you matter when galaxies swirl in numbers too vast to count, when time stretches billions of years before and after you? But pause here for a moment, breathe slowly, let the question soften, because in the stillness, you begin to see that significance isn't measured in size or duration. It's measured in belonging. And you do belong. Every heartbeat is timed by the physics of stars. Every breath is a conversation with ancient elements, oxygen made by long-vanished suns, carbon woven in the deaths of red giants. You are woven from the same threads that shape the galaxies. Infinity is not far away. It is already inside your skin. Think of a wave on the ocean. It rises, crests, and falls back, yet the ocean itself continues. Your life is that wave. It will pass, but it is still the ocean expressing itself in that one moment, in that one shape. You are temporary, but you are also eternal, because you are part of what has no end. And though the vastness can feel lonely, it can also bring peace. No wall hems you in, no final boundary presses against your dreams. Instead, you are surrounded by openness, by endlessness, by a sky that promises there will always be more to wonder at. Infinity is not your enemy. It is the wide bed in which you rest. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine yourself floating not apart from the cosmos, but within it, like a lantern glowing softly in a boundless night. The stars are not distant strangers. They are kin, sparks of the same fire, and in their company, you are never lost. You are exactly where you belong, a fleeting brightness in a universe that never runs out of light. If you've ever stood under a clear night sky, you know the quiet pull it creates. The stars above do not speak, yet they seem to invite you into something larger than yourself. That invitation is the essence of your place in infinity. You are not an intruder gazing at a distant stage. You are part of the performance, a verse in the song the cosmos has been singing since the first light broke through darkness. It helps to remember that scale is only one way of measuring meaning. A cell is small, but without cells there is no body. A grain of sand is tiny, but without grains there is no shore. In the same way, your single life, brief and delicate as it may be, is still a necessary piece of the whole. The cosmos would be different without you in it. Infinity also teaches patience. Stars take millions of years to form, galaxies billions to collide, and yet here you are, noticing them in the span of a single heartbeat. You are the universe becoming aware of itself, if only for a moment. That awareness alone is extraordinary, an ember of consciousness glowing against the dark, and when the thought of infinity begins to weigh heavy, you can let it lighten instead. There is no need to carry the whole universe on your shoulders. You only need to rest in your own small corner, to know that the immensity is not there to overwhelm you, but to cradle you. Vastness is a kind of comfort, a reminder that no mistake, no worry, no fear can outweigh the endless calm of the stars. So as you breathe slowly now, picture yourself lying not beneath the night sky, but within it, woven into its fabric, your pulse and your thoughts part of the same quiet rhythm that turns galaxies. Infinity is not outside you, it is with you, it is you, and in that truth there is peace. Infinity might sound cold when you think of it only as numbers. Billions of galaxies, trillions of stars, spans of time so long they blur into abstractions. But when you shift your perspective, infinity becomes warm. It is the endless sky that has room for every thought you've ever had, every dream whispered in the quiet, every memory carried in your heart. It is the assurance that nothing is too small to be part of the whole. You are finite, yes, but you are also continuous with everything around you. The air you breathe tonight will pass through countless lungs after yours. The atoms in your body will someday scatter, joining soil, rivers, plants, and perhaps even new stars. The universe has no walls, and neither does your story. It flows outward, interlacing with countless others, until the distinction between you and everything softens into one. Some philosophers suggest that comfort comes not from conquering infinity, but from accepting your place within it. You don't need to see every corner of the cosmos to belong to it. You don't need to grasp its entirety to be part of its song. Simply by existing, you are already included. You are already enough. So tonight, as your eyes grow heavy, let go of the urge to seek edges. Let go of the idea that you must measure your worth against galaxies. Instead, imagine yourself as you truly are, a quiet glow within infinity, small but inseparable, brief but eternal in connection. The universe holds you without question, without judgment, without walls, and in that embrace, you can finally rest. And now, after traveling so far past planets and comets, across the solar bubble, through the galactic shoreline, and beyond horizons of sight, you've arrived at a quieter place. A place not of answers, but of rest. You've seen that edges dissolve, that endings blur, that infinity stretches outward without walls. At first, such vastness can feel dizzying, like standing on the edge of an endless sea. But now, as the night grows still around you, that vastness feels like comfort. It means there is always more sky than you can measure, more stories than you can tell, more wonder than you can hold. You don't need to reach the end, you're already part of it. Take a slow breath in, let it drift out. Imagine that your thoughts, all the worries and questions of the day, are little sparks rising upward, fading gently into the dark. The universe has room for them all. Nothing is too small to be carried by its quiet embrace. Picture yourself floating on a calm ocean beneath the stars. The water is smooth, the air cool, the sky stretching in every direction. There is no shore to reach, no race to finish. Only the gentle rocking of infinity, cradling you the way the cosmos has always cradled its stars. Your place is here, in the flow of it all, not separate, not lost, but woven in. You are starlight remembering itself, a fleeting glow in an endless night. And just as the universe has no walls, your rest tonight has no boundaries either. You can let go, knowing that the story continues without you needing to hold it. So close your eyes, let your breathing settle into a rhythm as old as galaxies. The darkness around you is not empty, it is full of calm, full of space to dream. The stars above will keep their watch. The universe will continue its song, and you can rest, safe within infinity, carried gently into sleep. Good night, traveller. Sweet dreams.